Our next speaker, I'm going to read his bio. I didn't put it to memory. Our next speaker has made his way to join us from Las Vegas, Nevada. He was a second-generation Jehovah's Witness and spent over 30 years within the organization. Today, he is an international motivational speaker and performance coach, teaching people how to make massive life breakthroughs through the understanding of the mind. For the last year and a half, he has dedicated a large portion of his time helping ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to get their lives on track after leaving the religion through one-on-one coaching or online courses designated specifically for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Rodney Allgood.
I don't like the podium. Raised in beliefs that were not mine, a detachment from true self showed over time. A lie I lived for so very long, not understanding the real truth about what's right and wrong. Like a chameleon, I would change my colors at will so that the people I love would love me back still. But is it true love if you take it away because something called truth is not seen the same way? You see, we all have the power to use our own mind and seek understanding we all wish to find. This journey is mine, it belongs to no other, no brother, no sister, no father, or no mother. I was created unique and like no one else, but my gifts and talents were soon put on the shelf. Now it's time I break free from these chains and shatter the bondage. This is out of my brain. Now I finally am free, I can soar to the sky, for I was created in the image of the one who's most high. Let me break that down for you. I said, raised in beliefs that were not mine. How many people here were born as or raised as Jehovah's Witnesses? Right? And normally the only reason why we were a witness is because we were born into it, right? It's nothing else that we knew. And the way we see the world itself is usually formed by the time we're 9 years old. So your whole paradigm of how you look at things were formed at a very young age. So either you came in as a child, born into it, a very young, or some of you came in because you were going through something in life. Anybody relate with that? You're going through something and they knocked on your door, right? You see, when you're going through things, a hope is what you need. Anything better than what you're going through is what you want to hear, right? So you give yourself over to the religion, and it begins to program your mind. This talk is called Operation Deprogram, because your mind is simply a computer. It gets programmed when you're young, or it gets programmed when you're going through things, and then you've got a subconscious wiring that you live by until you change that. Also in that poem. A lie I lived for so very long, not understanding the truth about right and wrong. How many of you, when you were Jehovah's Witnesses, felt like you were living a lie and kept trying to push that down and push that down? Didn't want to acknowledge it. Like a chameleon, I would change my colors at will so the people I love would love me back still. How many of you felt like you were different, a different person around different people? Right? Just inauthentic. When you were kids, you would go to school, you'd be one way. You go home around your parents, you're another way. Sometimes you're with some neighborhood friends, you're another way, right? You ever have those two crowds clash and you don't know how to act? Right? Because there's no authenticity to you. You see, it is very, very tough to unwire the thinking of being a Jehovah's Witness. And most times people don't realize how rough that is. You see, it's kind of like living in a compound. Say it's a beautiful compound, hundreds of acres, and there's all your friends that live on the compound, and there's lots of houses and roads and streets, and it's a wonderful place. But in that compound, all the electrical sockets have this weird plug on it, right? It's like a 5-pronged plug. And all your appliances go into that plug. And everyone drives on the other side of the road. Things are just done differently on that compound, right? But as long as you're on the compound, you feel loved. You feel accepted. And you were told your whole life this is the way it should be. We're better. We're different. We're better. You don't need to go on the outside. Everything on the outside of the compound is scary. But one day maybe you find out that's not true. Or maybe one day, without being out there on purpose, you end up on the outside of the compound, right? And you find that your electric outlets or your computers and your toaster and everything else you got, your television, doesn't plug into anything, right? It's different in the real world. They got different plugs. They drive on the other side of the street. They do things differently. And this is what it's like when people leave the Jehovah's Witnesses. Their minds are wired in a different way. And the problem is people get stuck in a spot of anger when they look at their lives and they look at how much of their lives they've put into the religion, and now that they're forced to live a different way, they're angry. So the first thing I'm going to do today is describe to you the 5 stages that a witness or ex-witness goes through when they leave the organization or if they're contemplating leaving the organization. And I'm sure different people here are in different stages. And for those of you who are here to help witnesses, you'll understand them even better when you understand the mind of what they're going through. Now, the first stage is a stage of fear. Okay? You're usually still in the organization, and things are not adding up to you. Excuse me, let me go back. Your first stage is the stage of doubt. Fear is 2. So your first stage is the stage of doubt. Things are not adding up to you, right? You start doing a little bit of research, and that doubt grows. Doubt is like having a crack on your windshield in your car, right? You ever have a little crack on your windshield? Well, before long, that crack's a big crack, right? It keeps spreading. So the first stage is the stage of doubt. And it keeps growing and growing and growing, and it goes to stage 2, and stage 2 is a stage of fear. Doubt grows into fear. Number 1, you're fearful that people will recognize your doubt. How many of us have been there? Where you're fearful that people will recognize your doubt and you'll be called naughty names like an apostate or whatever else, right? You're fearful that you're going to lose everyone you love in your life if this doubt grows. You're fearful of losing your family, your friends, life as you know it. You're fearful of losing your entire belief system. You see, there's a comfort in that. When you know what your belief system is, even if you don't necessarily agree with it, there's a comfort in that. You see, there's a lot of people still in that organization that don't really care about the doctrine at all. You see, they're more concerned with the social aspect. They're more concerned of being accepted. You see, it's a natural human need to be accepted. It's a natural human need to have validation. And the thought of losing that is very daunting. So stage 2 is a stage of fear. Stage 3 is a stage of anger, resentment, sadness, depending on what kind of personality you have. Most of the time it's anger. Why are we so angry? Well, number 1, because everything we feared actually happened. You know, I like to say fear is false expectation appearing real, but this fear is real because it does happen. And then when it starts to happen, you get upset. Why do you get so upset? Because at this point, you're free to research. You've overcome your fear. You're researching. You're finding out things that you never knew through your decades of being a Jehovah's Witness, and you're angry. You're angry because you're finding out the real truth. You're angry because as you find out the real truth, your friends and family are shunning you. You can't even explain yourself. A lot of times you're not even trying to convince them. You just want to be understood. You just want to say, I'm not crazy. Right? Look at what I found here. Okay? And if you could just respect why I have this point of view, we could get along still. We don't really have to even talk about this. Right? You're angry. You have friends that start shunning you that you've never talked religion about. All y'all had friends in the truth that you never talked about religion. And suddenly they don't talk to you. See, this makes you angry. You're angry because of the lost opportunities. Man, I was really smart as a kid, and I didn't go to college. Man, I always wanted to be an architect. I always wanted to be a nurse. I could have been a great doctor. I could have been a lot of things, and that season and that window of life has passed. And a lot of times that makes you angry. Unfortunately, this is where most ex-Jehovah's Witnesses get stuck forever. And my friends, you don't want to get stuck in anger. It's a season that comes and a season that should pass. It's natural. We all go through it. But you don't want to get stuck in a season of anger because your life will pass you by. You see, the moment you decide that you're walking away from the religion, the moment you make any big decision in your life, it's on you to move forward. It's your responsibility to move forward. There's a lot of people that left the Witnesses 20 years ago, and their life is a mess, but they still want to blame the religion. That's 20 years that you did nothing but focus on the religion. So I'm here to tell you, if you want to move forward, and for those of you who are helping ex-witnesses, the biggest thing you could do is help them to focus on the right thing. Because in life, we get what we focus on. If we keep looking in our rearview mirror, we'll keep crashing. The rearview mirror is much smaller than the windshield for a reason, because we must be looking forward in life. But most ex-Jehovah's Witnesses stay in a state of anger. Now, after anger comes a state of exploration, where you wipe your chalkboard clean and you're open to new ideas. And for a lot of you, you're open to exploration. How weird was it the first time you walked into church? Felt weird for most of you, right? Didn't it? You were looking for cars driving down the road, trying to put your car in some weird place so nobody saw it, right? But you've got to open yourself up to new ideas and to think differently, and it's a wonderful place to be. You know, Julius, you spoke on this yesterday. You said you had a 2 or 3 year period of exploration, basically. And that's a wonderful thing. Even though you're a little bit lost, you're looking and you're allowing yourself to explore other ideas. You see, as witnesses, we were taught to think in very black and white. So just because if you didn't agree with something, one little thing of another belief or anything, right, you threw the whole thing out, black and white. Where there's truth in other things. There's truth that you can accept. You don't have to buy everything. Some of you here today are not going to buy everything that you hear today, and you don't have to. That's on you. You might be able to accept this, but not this yet. Maybe next year you accept something else, but be okay with your journey. Be okay with your journey. And stage 5 is a stage of clarity, which many of you are in today. Stage of clarity, you're clear about who you are, where you are, and why you're there. But these are the stages that people go through. And we want to get by stage 3, which is anger. You see, in life, what you push against will resist. Let me do a little example for you. Could you bring your chair here? I'm going to use you a few times because you're nice and young. Yeah. So sit here. Put your arms out. Like this. I'm going to push against your arms. Extend it. Right? Now, what happens is he's resisting me, and who's going to get hurt? I never asked him to lock his elbows, did I? Right? Thank you. Right? And that's what happens when you push against things. And for some of you, some people are using their entire existence fighting the watchtower and not working on themselves. Not bringing themselves in line with something new. And what you push against will resist you. For a lot of you, you want to free your family. You want to free your friends. But if you haven't found the way yourself, if you're not happy, why would anybody follow you? You see, let's go back 200 years ago, back in the times of slavery. And say there's some slaves working in the cotton fields. And here comes a slave, escaped, sweating, right? He's got some chains that he broke off of him, and he's running. And he says, hey, follow me. Where are we going? I don't know, but we need to be free. Let's run. Are you going to follow that person? No. But if Harriet Tubman came and said, hey, listen, I got a string of houses that go all the way up to Canada. I got everything planned out. I've led over 150 people to freedom, and you're the next batch. And I'm a free woman. I walk around like I'm free because I'm really free. You follow that person. So the first person that needs to get to a point of happiness is you. And you got to choose it. See, happiness is a choice. You choose it. You choose every day to be in a state of gratitude. You choose every day to look at your blessings instead of look at where your oppression is and looking where your challenges are in life. I got another poem that goes like this. It says, happiness is a choice. No, it's not a situation. You see, life can bring you victory, sometimes heartbreak or frustration. If you base your happiness on all the things that are external, it'll lead to disappointment and the kind that is eternal. Happiness is a choice. Learn to choose it every day. Never let your sense of joy be lost in the things that people say. Happiness is contagious. Learn to spread it far and wide. You see, it all begins within ourselves and the way we feel inside. People ask me every day, what will I say defines success? That's when I smile, and then I say it's by choosing happiness. You've got to choose to focus in a state of happiness. You've got to choose to focus on where you are going, not where you have been. You see, your whole body and mind get weak with a weak thought. I'm going to pick on you again, like a nice and strong guy. Come on up. Okay? Now, I want you to think, come here. I want you to think and face me. Plant your feet like this, real strong, because I'm going to push you, and I don't want you to move your feet. Now, do you have some negative thoughts about the Watts organization and your background and how you grew up? I think we all do.
Well, I actually enjoyed being a witness.
Okay. Okay. All right. So think about the things that are wrong. Think about the things that you read about sometimes that, trigger you or it's not right. I had a good time, too, with my friends and those kinds of things. But think about things that upset you about the organization. Don't tell me what it is. Just let me know when you got some thoughts. You say you got them?
Well, I actually don't feel upset.
No. Just thoughts that you know are wrong. Thoughts that you see. Maybe it's a molestation cases. Maybe just negative things. Okay? Do you have those negative thoughts in your mind? Okay? All right. So place your feet like that. Make it strong. Now, think about those negative thoughts. You got them? Yeah. Don't move your feet, all right? All right. See how you move back? Now, think of the proudest day in your life. Proudest day, you're really proud of yourself. You felt really good about yourself. Okay? You got that thought? Yeah. Plant your feet in again and feel that thought. Okay? Now, don't move your feet. He won't move because every bit of his body became weak with the wrong thought. When we dwell on things, when we dwell on negative things, we physically get weak. When we dwell on negative things, we cannot get to where we want to go. See, you can't get to a positive place from a negative space. And sometimes when we want to focus on the ills of the Jehovah's Witnesses, we're making ourselves physically weak because we're dwelling on what's negative. And there's so much positive in life to be focused on. And that's what I loved about this gathering, is that everybody's focused on the positivity. There's not a lot of anger in it. When you focus on what you want in life, you begin to believe it. Your self-talk comes into play. Your mind starts to make it a reality. I got another poem for you. It goes like this. It goes, if you ask, it shall be open. And if you knock, it shall be open. And if you ask, you shall receive. Now, what you need to find deep in your heart is faith and to believe. You see, having doubt is just like poison. It spreads death to all your dreams. But you're having faith is the expectation that what you see will come to be. Now, never let anyone around you tell you what you can do. For they can't comprehend, nor can they understand a dream that was meant for you. Now, the word fear stands for false expectation, appearing to be real, but fear will dissipate. If you have faith, you'll find strength that you can feel. Now, you've heard this said before, that there's nothing that you cannot do. Learn to let that sink deep in your soul and know this to be true. That if you believe down to your core, there's nothing that you can't achieve. And it all begins, listen close, my friends, with a dream that you believe. Now listen, I said in that poem, I said, they can't comprehend nor can they understand a dream that was meant for you. You see, everyone is given something. God gives everybody something that is unique to you. A part of the problem, as you were being raised as a witness, is you weren't looked at as an individual. You were part of a whole. So your gifts, your dreams, your talents, the things that you were meant to share with the world were put on ice. See, I didn't know I could write poetry till I was 44 years old. Right? I didn't know I could do all that. I do it very easily. Why? Because to write the poems, I got to write my truth, don't I? As a witness, you had to censor everything. I didn't know I had that ability because I was detached from the real me. So part of what your task is to get in touch with the real you without that filter anymore. But one of the problems we have is our minds are wired the wrong way. So let's discuss the mind so we start to understand the mind. Why are we stuck with things years later? How many people, years after leaving, were still stuck with the wiring of the witnesses? Still had that plug that couldn't go in the wall. Found out you're very different from everybody else. You didn't think that you were that different while you were in it. But when you got out, you said, I don't relate to anybody. Some of you maybe got in a relationship, the first relationship you got out after being in the witnesses. That person didn't understand you. That person kept saying, why do you keep talking about this? Just get over it. I was raised a Catholic. I'm over it. You all heard this one, right? It's not the same thing, right? You find that you're very different than everyone else. So let's discuss where people get stuck. Number one of the reasons why it's important to move on in life is because your life becomes the story you tell yourself in your head. Have you ever noticed that most ex-witnesses are not very successful at very much? Most ex-witnesses live a life that's in constant turmoil, and they're not that happy. It's unusual to see one that thrives. Now, some go running back to the Kingdom Hall because they think that, somebody can shout it out. What happens? They think they left Jehovah and they're not having success. Why? But what's the real? You're right. But what are they telling themselves as to why they're struggling? They've lost what? They've lost Jehovah's favor and Jehovah's spirit, right? So they believe that this is going on because I don't have any friends and I'm not happy, so I need to run back to the Kingdom Hall. Let me tell you what's really happening. You have your conscious mind, you have your subconscious mind, and your creative subconscious. Your subconscious mind has a need to be correct about whatever it believes. So if you were told your whole life that when you leave Jehovah, your life is a mess. When you leave Jehovah, nothing's going to work for you. When you leave Jehovah, you lost his spirit. You'll be immoral. All these different things are going to happen if you leave. Then you will create that reality in real life because that was a belief you were wired with. Now, this is how your mind operates. 95% of what you do is in your subconscious mind. A lot of times you don't realize why you do what you do because it's subconscious, which means you're not really conscious of it. How many of us have felt seasons of sabotage where we're just sabotaging our lives? We want something and it's just not working out. We don't know why we can't get over the hump. Anybody? We should have more hands than that because I know we all have this happen sometimes. Now, this is what happens. When your conscious thought and your subconscious wiring are not in line, you sabotage yourself. Like I said, 95% of what you do is in your subconscious. Your subconscious carries every experience you've ever had. It's got file cabinets in it. And the files that are closest to the front in every drawer are the files of what you repetitiously did in your life. Is there anything that any of you ex-witnesses did that was more repetitious than the activities of the Jehovah's Witnesses? No. So what's in the front of those files? All the Jehovah Witness stuff. Years later, it's still up front. So what happens is when you get a new conscious thought, it delivers that conscious thought to the subconscious mind for a meeting, an evaluation. Your subconscious mind opens the file and grabs the file, opens the drawer and grabs the file that most closely relates to this new thought. It makes a comparison, it analyzes it against it, and it makes a decision. Your subconscious mind will always win. Now, I'm not saying that you go back to the Kingdom Hall or do anything like that, but what happens is you have this cognitive dissonance. See, your mind can't hold two different beliefs at the same time. So when you have a subconscious wired belief, it will trump where you're trying to go, and you end up going nowhere. And this is where we get stuck a lot. So what we need to do is to rewire the subconscious, and that's what so many of you have done. Through repetitions, you push that file back. Well, let me give you another example, and then I'll think of that while I'm giving you this example. Have you ever met someone you just didn't like? Right? She didn't do anything wrong. Say it's a woman, right? This woman her name is Gina. Gina didn't do anything to you. In fact, Gina was nice. She walked up and said, "Hi, I'm Gina." And everything about her, she did everything right. But for some reason, you did not like her. What happened is the information of Gina was taken to your subconscious, opened the file, and up came Tina. Tina looked like her, same color hair, same walk, same kind of perfume. Everything about Gina was just like Tina. Well, Tina used to flirt with your husband every day. You couldn't stand Tina, right? So what your subconscious did is bring up Tina, compare her with Gina, and decide that I don't like Gina, right? Now, when you have these witness files, this happens all the time where you're pulling up these witness files. For instance, how many people had a problem celebrating any holidays when you left the organization, right? And it's not because of your real conscience, it's because of your wiring. You see, you don't have to tell anyone in any country that I can't just walk up and slap him. That's your conscience, right? Nobody's got to tell me it's wrong to just go and hit somebody, right? But as far as the beliefs, the blood issue with witnesses, that's another one. That's not your conscience. That's your wiring. How many people you know hadn't been in a meeting in 25 years and don't want blood? That's your wiring, not your conscience. See, in that faith, a lot of times we mistake our wiring for our conscience. So what we need to begin to do is to rewire our thinking to be in alignment with what it is we want. And we do this through repetitions. Your life will always reflect the habits that you have. Ask yourself, what do I habitually do? See, most people have bad habits that they unconsciously, repetitiously do. Good habits are a little harder because you got to consciously do them until they're unconscious. So most of you that are strong in your faith and really, really diligent about it, you consciously do things that keep you in accordance with that. It doesn't come naturally. You have to put effort in this. And that's how you begin to push back your subconscious wiring. Now, there are particular things that ex-JWs struggle with. They struggle with it because of the cult or the mind control that's employed by the organization. You see, in any mind control organization, you need three things. You need fear, you need an enemy, and you need a hope that only comes through that organization. And our mind gets programmed to look at things that way. Many of you have read some of the material by Steve Hassan about mind control. The bite system, he calls it, right? behavior control for B, information control for I, thought control for T, and emotional control for E. How many times have you heard, we as Jehovah's people are happy when they're telling you what to feel. Who is supposed to tell you how to feel? You feel how you feel, right? As Jehovah's people, we are glad that we are joyful when all these things that are telling you how to feel. Remember when they said, I remember back in the day when somebody got reinstated and people clapped, they stopped people from clapping, right? You can't clap anymore. Your spontaneous thing was, man, my goodness, my brother is back. My sister is back. My cousin, I can talk to my cousin. I can talk to my mother, whatever it is. You want to spontaneously get up and be happy about it. No, don't clap. Right? Controlling your emotions. Controlling your behavior. What's the first thing people know? That I'm not a witness no more, right? I got a little goatee, right? You behave. You can't have facial hair, right? That's a control tactic. You see, if I take away your individuality, you don't think for yourself anymore. Your information is highly controlled. How many of you were surprised when you finally went on the internet and all this evil stuff and all the lies? You're like, my goodness, this is just your own literature reprinted. Information control. They could tell their flock anything they want, and no one's going to look and dig under. Women, I got a question. If your man has always got his phone on him, doesn't let you touch his phone, has got a secret, his phone is off limits. Now, I'm not saying anybody should snoop in people's things, but if he is funny about his phone, why would that be? He's hiding something. You see, truth does not need to hide. It's when you're hiding the truth that you need to hide. Hence, information control, thought control. Witnesses only talk about certain kinds of things. You ever realize that witnesses only talk about people and events? They don't talk about philosophies, ideas, anything deeper. It's people and events. It's very simple. It's thought control. So every bit of your behavior and the way you go about life is controlled. And for you to go forward in life, you need to get past all of these wired beliefs on how to look at the world. You really need to work hard. How you doing? No problem. Welcome. We're talking about the wiring of the mind. There's ways to do this, my friends, but you've got to be committed to do it. You've got to be committed to your personal development. You got to be committed to getting past these wirings. Witnesses also, ex-witnesses also deal with looking at the world through the eyes of fear. Some of you, from the time you were little kids, were looking at images with fire coming from heaven, dead people on the ground. You see, this messes your mind up in the way you see the world. You're always fearful. It's very difficult for you to go out there and live a courageous life. You see, a life that is successful is a courageous life. It's a bold life. But as witnesses, you were taught to be courageous for the organization, but not for yourself. When you look at the world through the eyes of fear, and again, for people that come out of the religion, they still look at the world with the eyes of fear. How many people came out of the organization and don't trust anybody? You don't trust anybody. Because you were told to be fearful of everything outside of the organization. So again, it's very hard for you to move on. Witnesses were taught to look at things through labels. They use a lot of labels, don't they? If they say the truth, then you're okay. If you're in the truth, brotherhood, all these things that it's okay if you have that label on you. You see, labels are either all inclusive or all dismissive. When there was the word worldly being used, you could be an old lady that worked at a soup kitchen 5 days a week, does everything right, goes to church 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, she is just the kindest old lady, helps everybody. But she, along with the drug dealer and prostitute and the person that's in prison, they're all worldly. A pastor is just as worldly as someone that's snatching purses. You see? And it's dismissive. It makes you not listen to anything these people say. The word apostate, when they put that on someone, it dismisses anything you have to say. It doesn't matter how much sense you make, it dismisses, are you apostate? And the wall goes up, right? So one of the things that we really have to do is to stop using their labels. Do some of us still struggle with the word, the truth? A lot of times I hear people say, well, I left the truth when I found out it was false. One of the biggest problems that ex-witnesses have is self-judgment. And one of the ways that you self-judge yourself very easily is by using that word. Why is that? Because your subconscious mind knows the literal meaning of the word truth. And then when you use the word the truth and you're not in the truth, who's wrong? You. Who's out of line with truth? You. It's very important to stop using their words. Don't use their words. Many ex-witnesses have a problem with esteem. Why is that? Well, if you grew up as a witness, most of you never got any validation for very much. You didn't play sports. You didn't join the swim team. You didn't do ballet. You didn't do any of these things. There was nothing that gave you validation as an individual. Human beings naturally need this. You got validation not for what you accomplished, you got validation for how you appeared. So all you had to do is sign a slip saying you're going to auxiliary pioneer this month, right? And everybody's congratulating you. Now, you didn't have to accomplish a darn thing, did you? You could ride around in the minivan all day long and stop at 7-Eleven all day long, but you signed the form, right? As a brother with the witnesses, if you look right, I wear a suit real well.
Yes, you do.
Cut this off, you know, just have the right look. Let me tell you something. I was joking with somebody the other day. I said, I could go back to the witnesses right now. I'll just be quiet for the first couple of months, and I'll start commenting in the meetings, give real impressive comments, okay? And again, this is just to prove a point, right? Dress, look the right way. And then they put me on the ministry school, and I give very good talks because I'm a professional speaker. It's what I do. And the brothers will say, wow, that brother Allgood's got potential. Wow. And then I just lie. At the end of the month, I put 20 hours on my service report, haven't done an hour. I just write 20, make up a couple of Bible studies that don't exist, show up at the car group a couple of times and go home. I got Bible studies and go home. I would go up the ranks so quickly because of how I appeared. You see, part of rising up your validation or feeling better about yourself, your self-esteem, is by finding what you're gifted at. What gift did God give you? And engaging with that, finally. It doesn't matter how old you are in life. A lot of people think it's too late. Maybe it's too late to do it vocationally. Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's in contribution. But find a gift that you have. And everyone has one. Everyone has a particular gift to share. You see, none of us are happy when we're lost. In life, we need our GPS set to something. We can't just drift. You see, it's kind of like being on the Titanic. Say you're on the Titanic, and you're one of the first people that look out and say, this ship is going to hit that iceberg, and I'm going to get off. So you get off and you get in your little dinghy and you start paddling, but you have no compass. You can't read the stars. You don't know where land is. It's dark. It's cold. The seas are rough. Isn't it tempting to go back to the ship where all your friends are in that warm bed? See, when you leave an organization like that and you have no compass for your life, when your GPS is not set to anything, it's going to be a very uncomfortable place. So you need to find places to make sure you feel valuable. And one of the things you need to do is to let go of expecting validation from places you're not going to get it. And it hurts sometimes. We want it from our family, our mothers, our fathers, our siblings. Sometimes we're just not going to get it from them. I do this work in prisons. I'm in juvenile detention centers. I've been on radio and TV, all kinds of stuff. And my parents have never seen any of it. They don't care. It used to hurt before. I want a validation. My parents would be happier if I pretended to be a witness, even if it wasn't honest. But how blessed am I that I get to use the talent I was given to touch all of you? You see, in every single one of you have something like that within you. Now, I started off talking about the story you tell yourself. When you tell yourself this story, that I have a talent, that I am gifted, that I am blessed, that I'm created in the image of the Most High, that doesn't make you a scrub. Start telling yourself a different story and start knowing that your life, your challenges, no matter how tough your life was, it's a story of inspiration for somebody else because you're still here. For those of you who are feeling hurt because of the past, because of what you've lost, remember this. Life is not fair for anyone. Not just ex-witnesses. This is something we've got to deal with. Life is not fair for anyone. I had a friend get in a car accident about a month ago, and she's paralyzed the top of her neck. Can't move anything. Needs help to breathe. That's not fair. But at some point, with whatever we deal with, that's the spot we have to find happiness from. And whatever your history is helps someone else if you look at it the right way. If you decide to be a victor and not a victim, you have value. If you don't feel it, it's just because of the story that you're telling yourself. Now, how do you effectively touch people that you want to touch that are still witnesses? We touched on this a little earlier. But it's by you becoming all you can be. It's by you becoming an example of what could be if they left. You see, they don't see anything outside of what they are. Anybody watch the Truman Show with Jim Carrey? Right? That was a great movie. Jim Carrey thought that movie set, he was born on a movie set. For those of you who didn't see that movie, rent that movie because it's a perfect analogy for witnesses. Jim Carrey was born on a movie set, this gigantic, almost like a stadium, gigantic, huge, right? And the roof was painted like the sky, and you had an ocean, you had a perfect town. Everyone on the set were actors. He was born on this set. And it was the most popular show in the world. Everybody's been watching him from the day he was born. And he thought it was real. And everything was fake. Now, what happened is no matter how wonderful his life was, and they made his life just perfect, but everybody was actors. Once he found out there was more, he had to go get it. He couldn't live that fakeness anymore. And that's the same for a lot of you. But now that you've gotten to the other side, how do you help people? You help people by who you become. Don't become what they expect you to become. You know, I've got a private Facebook group. For any of you that want to join it, they're watching me right now. I'm doing a live. How you doing, Empowered Group? Okay, so join my group. It's called the Empower ex-Jehovah Witnesses, okay? Empowered ex-Jehovah Witnesses. Now, what we try to encourage people to do is to focus on themselves. I'm not an activist. Nothing against people who do that, but I really feel like to really effectively touch people, you can't be what they expect you to be. You see, if I go and take my picket signs and stand outside of an assembly hall or arena where they're having an assembly, that's what they expect, don't they? That's part of persecution, isn't it? It fits their narrative, doesn't it? Being angry is what you're supposed to be. Because people that leave Jehovah are angry. People that leave Jehovah aren't supposed to excel at love, are we? People that leave Jehovah are not supposed to be happy, are we? Successful, are we? Who do we become now with this freedom? If you really have freedom, you're not bound by it. If you really have freedom, you don't focus on it. You know, if you have a girlfriend that you broke up with and you stalk her on Facebook every day, and you got an opinion about everything she does, you're not over her. We must become something greater now because we can. Then they can look at us and say, I want to be like that. See, my two children are still Jehovah's Witnesses. I got a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old. So I know their mother says things, and I'm supposed to be a bad person, aren't I? But imagine how cool it was when her middle school asked me to speak for the school. That was pretty cool in 2015. Entire school. And the principal said, they live in Hawaii, right? In Hawaii, they give lays when the speaker comes up. And they surprised me, and my daughter came and gave me the lay and stood with me. And everybody was like, that's your daddy? That's your daddy? That's your daddy? Inspiring the kids. See, I'd rather much take that route than to be angry. For those of you who have loved ones, I'm going to give you a tip that might affect them in the long run. We got people in the organization that we love, right? They're good people. They're just misled, aren't they? Do this for me, please. If these people are not talking to you, put this on your calendar for the whole year, every 3 months. You send them a card with some pictures of your kids, grandkids, whatever it is. Bring them up to date with your life. Tell them how much you love them and send it. Now, here's the key. Do it detached from the result. They may not open it. They may send it back, but in 3 months, they get another one. Put a little gift certificate to their favorite restaurant for lunch. Okay? You're going to drip on them like water dripping on a stone. That stone will have a hole in it at some point. Because you outlove them. That's how you make a difference. You outlove the people that are trying to shun you. You see, it's love that conquers everything. It's love that breaks down the wall. It's love that conquers, not anger. You outlove them. Every 3 months, here it comes. Here it comes again. Here it comes again. Detached from the result. Now, this is the worst case scenario. They send every one of them back. Or they open it, read it, and never respond back to you. That's the worst case scenario. Now, at some point, if we still have parents that are alive, at some point, we lose our parents. But on their deathbed, they will know that you loved them. Outlove. Discard all labels. How many of you have a label like disfellowship on you? Raise your hand. Disfellowship. disassociated, whatever the label is. None of y'all plan on going back to the witnesses, do you? If in my senior year of high school, I got suspended or put on detention or something, and yesterday, say I'm at a Starbucks and I run into my counselor, and she said, Rodney Allgood. Yes. You know you still on detention. I haven't let you off yet. I would look at her like she's crazy. You're not disfellowshipped. You're not in their religion. Stop playing by their rules. Don't put your head down when you see people. You're playing by their rules. You talk to who you want to talk to. They can run away if they choose to. Have pride in yourself. Stand up tall. Stand up tall. Don't let them dictate your life. Every single one of you were born with the seeds of greatness in you. Every single one. That's how we're created as human beings. Right now is the time to step into your life. Right now is the season that you turn the page and start looking at yourselves differently. Right now is when you find the purpose as to why you're here. God gives everybody a purpose. Why are you here? What are you here to do? At some point in our lives, now I've had many different ups and downs in lives. I've had time in my life, times where I've made a lot of money, times where I've lost it. I've been all over the place. But at some point, you start to realize that our purpose is to add value to other people. That we're here to share the best of us with others. That by us stepping into what was given to us, we help another life. And the time to start doing that is now. Now, if there's anybody here, this is what I do. I work one-on-one with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I have different things for them if they want to do it, courses and whatnot. Constance, you do one of my courses, huh? How's that working for you? Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone is stuck anywhere, let me know. Or if you just want to make a phone call with me, we'll get on the phone and we'll talk, and we'll be able to get you through those different stages that I spoke on earlier. Once you get to stage 4, you're home free. You're going to make it to stage 5. So you want to keep moving, but you want to start now. So in ending this talk, I'm going to leave you with one more poem. And it talks about how fleeting life is, and you're not promised tomorrow, so you want to live the best life that you can right now. And it goes like this. It goes, in the blink of an eye, each moment becomes the past. You see, nothing stays forever, only the memories last. A young woman, she'll dream of her wedding day, but in a blink, the day is here, and then it's gone away. Our babies and toddlers, we watch them frolic and play, but in a blink they grow up, and they're no longer this way. Now grown and on their own, in the blink of an eye, sometimes we all wonder, when did the years pass by? In the blink of an eye, our elders are gone. Suddenly it's on us to pick up and carry on. In the blink of an eye, we are young no more, so ask yourself this one question: what am I waiting for? Live a life that's inspired. Don't let it end with regret. Find your purpose and your passion, one this world won't soon forget. The time is now. You've got one life to live, so spread your wings and fly. For this ride, it may be over in the blink of an eye. Thank you very much.